Boom! Yes, folks, Hume again. So, we are continuing in our series of what we call hard questions. The whole point of this series is to go through a process of doing the questions and not just giving the solutions, but giving an explanation, giving a rationale, giving a philosophy, explaining the thought process, so that you could have some means of deconstructing, of decoding these questions that people like to describe as hard. Alright? Now, one of the questions that has been making waves in recent times where the CSEC maths is concerned would have been the number 7 in the June 2019 past paper. It's months now I hear about that question. They put add maths in the paper, they bring maths in the quest, add maths in the thing, blah 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 blah. Now I didn't get to see that paper for a while. I only recently got around to looking at the question. And just as I suspected, the question was not as difficult as people made it out to be. But that is why we're here in this video now. Alright? I know the first thing you'll say, well, he could do maths already, so of course he could say it easy. No, it's not just that. Okay, it might be that to a point, right? But the point of this video is to share not just the knowledge, but the procedure, the thought, the thinking behind this thing. So that you too could get to the point where under the pressure of an exam situation, you could deconstruct what you would normally refer to as a hard question. Alright? So just follow and understand that you could do this too. It will take some hard work and it will take some time, but that's a different discussion. Alright? We go in. So 7a. The ninth term Tn of a sequence is given by problem start one time. Alright? Because people would have gone through maths for years. 5 years. And in the case of people who repeated a little more than 5 years, without having seen anything like this. A sequence. What is a sequence? Right? And if maybe you may have glanced at the add maths past paper somewhere and you realize immediately that that is add maths language you're talking about there. But okay, in the exam already, what are you going to do? Are you going to sit down and cry about it? Or are you going to try and make an effort to go through this thing? You know what I would tell you, right? So let me go forward with it. So you're in the exam, and you're confronted with this strange vocabulary, a sequence. But let me go back to the English again. What's a sequence? Right? I'll roll the official definition on the top there, but we have an intuitive understanding of what a sequence is. It's just something after the other, some kind of orderly progression, some kind of pattern, something. Right? So again, it brings into focus the use of English as part of your mathematical experience. Alright? Yes, in some ways maths is a separate language, but in many ways, your use of English or whatever language you're doing maths in is one of the tools that will assist you in understanding the maths in a particular situation. So I want to encourage you again, don't just give up. You see sequence? Alright, sequence, fine. Alright, so let me go. So the nth term Tn of a sequence is given by Tn is equal to 3n squared minus 2. Now apart from the word sequence being unfamiliar, you also have the situation where we have notation that may be slightly unfamiliar to most CSEC students. Right? People who don't add maths, of course, wouldn't have that problem because they would have seen this a number of times. That is section A in the add maths, question 1 or question 2. So, you take a deep breath. You exhale. You go through whatever ritual you go through in the context of an exam. For some people, they say a prayer. For some people, they put down the pen and they say a deep breath. Whatever your ritual is, do that. But we're not going to run away from these things. Alright? So if Tn, n being a general term, is equal to 3n squared minus 2, then they wanted to show that the first term of the sequence is 1. Again, your language. So this gives me the opportunity now to explain something. And I want people to take note of this. Part of the exam strategy when you're doing these things is to read the entire question before you even pick up a pen to write anything. Alright? What most people do is that they read the question and they see A and they start to write one time. No, 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 no. Very often, 9 times out of 10, the very fact of going through the entire question, sometimes you read something in part C that will give you a hint of what to do when you start working part E. Right? Sometimes the very last part of the question, if you allow yourself to read so far before you start to write, will tell you what to do when you start to write from the very first part. So I want to encourage everybody. Read the entire question before you start to write. And if possible, read it twice too. Right? That's the better thing to do. But at least once. Give the question at least one whole read over. That little time you spend reading the question is part of your calming down procedure as well. Okay, so you see 7a, the nth term of a sequence, and your heart starts a bit faster because you tell yourself this is add math and you never see this before. Okay, fine, but just continue, right? Show that the first term of the sequence is 1. Okay, it have a first term. Maybe it have a second term. And then part 2, what is the third term of the sequence? Okay, we have the third term now. So you get a clear sense of what happening here now. First term, a second term, a third term, etc., etc., etc. Which then begs the question, well, okay, we might have a 75th term, or 85th term, or a 297th term. Alright? So when you read the whole question, you have the opportunity now to go through your thoughts, as opposed to just dropping the pen and starting to write, and you haven't even looked at the question. Alright? So, show that the first term of the sequence is 1. Right. So the first term, and then you go back to the nth term. Well, okay. You have a first term, a second term, and a third term. Right? But the question starts with the nth term. So if the nth term is 3n squared minus 2, then it stands to some level of reason that the first term would be t1, and that t1 would be 3 by 1 squared minus 2. So in other words, this is taking you straight back to your functions, your regular functions that you would do normally in question 3 or question 4, maybe even question 5. Alright? This is just a slightly different way of seeing it. Good? 1 squared is still 1, so that will be 3 by 1 minus 2, which is equal to 3 minus 2, which is equal to 1. Alright? Notice I've taken my time to write it out. Again, I want to encourage people, don't try to jump from here to here in one line. You may get away with it in some instances, but there are other instances where it will cost you, it will hurt you. Right? So as a general rule, don't skip lines. Good? We're going again. Alright, so that's the first term, 1 mark. And then that's for the third term. Same procedure. The only difference now is that instead of 1, we now have 3. So, second part, T3 is equal to 3. You substitute 3 where the n is, minus 2. So you get 3 by 9 minus 2, which is equal to 27 minus 2, which is our good friend, 25. So we know that given this sequence, right, I'm making sure I'm using people's vocabulary, alright, your first term, according to the formula they give you, is 1, and the third term is equal to 25. Now, of course, having set you up with 2 fairly straightforward procedures, you know by the third one, they would twist it a little bit, and they'll give you something a little, bend the corner a little bit, alright? So in the third part now, here what I want to. They're saying, given that Tn is equal to 145, what is the value of n? Okay, again, let us for argument's sake say that you would have gotten this far. That if you would have gotten this far, then there is very little reason why you should not have also completed this. But we're not here to castigate, right? We're here to educate. All right? So don't ignore us if my tone might sound a little harsh sometimes. That is just enthusiasm, right? The idea is we're trying to get everybody in the loop as much as possible. It simply means that you have to take your time and go through the process, right? This is not a one-shot thing. This is not a, you know, we live in that time now where people are trying to make you feel you could do everything in 2 weeks, right? Learn Spanish in 6 weeks. Learn to play the guitar in 1 month, right? Learn a new language, something. Forget that nonsense. And I want to talk particularly to the young people watching this video, right? The 16-year-olds and the 17-year-olds, 18, 19, 20, 21 coming up the road. The older people know this already. People in their 30s and 40s. But my young people, forget the pony tricks out there that will try to convince you that you could do these things in a short space of time. Right? So for those of you who in Form 4 especially, Form 3, Form 4 going into Form 5, use the time to take your time and do it. And even if you're seeing this video in February or March or maybe even April and you're in Form 5, then you still have to spend some kind of time somewhere to understand something if you don't understand it. Alright? Anyway, enough of a diversion. So we go in. Tn is equal to 145. So here what we do. We have Tn, your general Tn, and you have the formula that represents Tn. So we start off by saying that Tn is equal to 145, and we know that 3n squared minus 2 is 145. So it means therefore that 3n squared minus 2 is equal to 145. So what do? We carry the 2 across. So at this point now we're just a regular algebra. Alright? 3n squared is equal to 145 plus 2, which is equal to 147. So 3n squared is equal to 147. So n squared is equal to 147 over 3, which is equal to 49. So if n squared is equal to 49, then n is equal to the square root of 49, which is equal to 7. And that is the answer there. Now, of course, by the time you get to add maths, the solution to this will be all different. In that case, you will probably be called upon to consider the negative solution as well, which will be plus 7 or minus 7, right? That is just an aside. But for CSEC maths purposes, they say what is the value of n, so they only expected one value of n. So in other words, add maths people, this is not the stage for you to show off, right? If they only ask for one value, then it means that the value they're referring to is the positive value. Alright? So n squared is equal to 49, n is the square root of 49 is equal to 7. End of discussion. Alright? So this is just the first part. This is part A. We're going to do part B now in a separate video. Good? So I just want to take the opportunity again to encourage everybody, right, to not give up, to work, to stay in the game, right? It's not a short process, it's a long process, especially people who are repeating, right? Especially those who would have been attempting the thing on a number of occasions. Giving up is simply not an option in this particular endeavor and in other endeavors that you might be undertaking in other areas in your life. Alright, so that's it. So we're going to get on to the next video now. I hope that this has been useful. So look out for the next one. Boom!